Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Wednesday, the 25th, hump day, and finally no rain in New York City. I think we went 4 days straight with some type of rain, steady rain. Nice to see that clear up. Would imagine you're appreciating that too if you're in or around the New York City area. So let's get to the themes of the day. Before I do that, risk disclaimer, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Also, if you want to know a little bit more about Tribeca Trade Group, go to our website, www.tribecatradegroup.com. Simply put in your email address and you can see some of the trades that we do. You'll get I think right now you get a midday and you get the midday summary of the themes and any trades. I also include charts of trades that I got into, and you will also receive our end of day recap, so you can see a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes at Tribeca Trade Group and see if this type of platform that we do, swing trading, is something that you're interested, trend trading, following relative strength, and so on and so forth. You get that for 5 days as a glimpse of just what goes on at Tribeca Trade Group. So let's talk a little bit about some of the themes for the day. Finally, a little bit of a different day. What we've been experiencing, like for I would say, I don't know, seven or eight out of the last 10 days is we get a little bit of like a bounce in the middle of the day, the beginning of the day. It gets faded. We go lower. We get a little bit of a bounce at lunchtime, and then for the rest of the afternoon, we kind of just go lower to some extent. So a little bit out of the pattern of that today. Whenever the markets do bounce, everybody always asks for the news. What's the news? What's the news? Right? What was our headline that caused us to bounce? I just think it was a kind of an oversold bounce. There was some headline about, the possibility of, I guess, the Senate coming together for the government shutdown thing, but I I don't know. It's really in the weeds, and it seems to cause the market, the market bounce a little bit more than that. Again, I just think we're at the point right now where things are starting to get stretched to the downside, and now any possible good news, whether it be the dollar moving or bonds moving, or or it could be a headline, will probably cause the market to bounce a little bit. Right? I think we're getting pretty washed out at this point. Small caps, they outperformed. I'm going to go over that in just a second, but I mentioned the dollar, so I wanted to go over that first because a lot of people don't like this, and I get it, but we have a very macro tape on our hands right now. Watching the dollar and interest rates right now is, in my opinion, is paramount, because the equity market is just taking clues, off of these markets, and they're giving you signals. There's been, as we've been going along, like there's not a lot of doubt in regards to seeing the dollar go up and interest rates go up, especially at the long end of the curve over the last month, right? And then of course, looking at the breath has been horrible most days. So I mean, all these things should be hitting you in the face in terms of risk off right now, and a difficult environment. And then of course you have the seasonality too. But what I wanted to bring up here is that yes, I do think, and we went over this I think in yesterday's video too, that there's 3017 could be the level that we get back to here in the dollar. But we don't have to get there in a straight line. And one of the things that I mentioned is that earlier today is that we're really overbought in the dollar. The RSI right now is I think it's an 80. It's an 80 in the RSI. So if you don't use the RSI study that much, that's fine. But I could give you just a quick 10 seconds on it. Basically just tells you when something is really getting cooked, or that's the adjective that I use, but just really overbought. And I use it a lot for the indices. For single names, it's a little bit different. Single names can stay overbought for a while. In fact, if you want to see that, you want to see a name get to overbought and basically stay in overbought. But the indices, and I'm including the dollar in this comparison too, they don't normally get that oversold. case in point, look at what happened the last time on the peak here. We got to about an 81.6, somewhere around there, or an 80, a little bit north of 81, we'll call it, right? And then look at what happened, right? That was kind of the top for, for about a year. So these things work. Now that's not always the case, but you want to be cognizant when something gets that overbought like that. And yeah, so I mean that's pretty heated. So could have, and the other thing today was there was no doubt about the strength in the dollar today. It was super strong, and I take note when something's been moving, when something's been trending for a while, and then all of a sudden you get like one of the biggest days in the trend. And again, I'm not calling a top here, but in a pretty mature move. We've been seeing this dollar go up now for a couple months, and it was up about 0.5% today, finished a little bit off the lows. Or excuse me, off the high. So, has it moved like this before? Yeah, we had one other day where it went up 0.6%. But other than that, there's not that many days where the dollar moves that much. It's been more moving like up 10 basis points, up 20 basis points. All right. And then the other thing, of course, is bonds. Right, this continues, right, to move in this direction. Is this oversold at this point? It's getting there. It's not quite as oversold as the dollar is overbought, but it's a 27 RSI, right? So that's below 30. That does classify as oversold, and if this pushes any more, again, I think that you're setting up for a bounce in TLT, considering how oversold it is. By the way, look at the volume that's going up in the TLT. We talked about this last week, and the volume just has really continued. And of course, looking at the 30-year bond futures, that's a 25 RSI. So maybe we need to take one more of these out. Notice there's, we're getting through these virgin point of controls pretty quickly. But so another update for the dollar, another down day for bonds, or higher in rates, I should say. Here's what I'd like to show this so that you get some perspective. Here's interest rates, see what's making the biggest moves. Today was actually the short end of the curve. The 2, the 3, the 5, those were up about 7 to 8 basis points. I mean, there's a lot of movement, again, in bonds. So that's one thing I would watch for, is that these things probably are due for a rest, and that's another thing. It doesn't mean just because something gets oversold or overbought that you're automatically going to see a reversal. You could just see digestion. Regardless, that would help equities a little bit to get the pressure off of them, because right now with those two things just percolating like that, it has been providing a lot of pressure against equities. I want to start with the small caps today. I usually start with the S&P. Usually I'm not really interested in the small caps. However, we hit a pretty decent level, a pretty big level there yesterday. And that was this virgin point of control. And notice we're trying to bounce here, right? So we did not get back above its 5-period moving average, which is usually the first step to me in a trend reversal, is to get back above the 5-period moving average. Or I guess, yeah, I mean, that's the first step, I guess, for confirmation. Doesn't have to be the exact first step in just the bottom, but for confirmation, I like to see a move back above the 5-period moving average. Now, I've got a great level to watch here, because you could see that the prices had a difficult time with this level all week long. That's 176.56, and I don't mind going long IWM for a very short-term trade. I don't like the trend, so this could be a day trade. It could be some very, very short in nature, provided that it gets back into the value area like it did Monday and stays in there, right, and triggers the 80% rule. All right, so that's IWM. S&P, yes, so we got a bounce here, but I don't think there's really any major change in trend. Notice that we saved there the 200-day moving average. I know the 200-day moving average is going to look a little bit different, whether you use SPY or S&P futures or the SPX index, but for S&P futures, it's showing that it is significant there. So watch that 200-day moving average. You did get a hammer bar today on that 200-day moving average. There is a lower VPOC. If this gets broken, that's the next thing to the downside that I would watch. And there's really not much to like yet on the 1 hour chart. We did not get to this lower version point of control. We got kind of close to it, but we are above this. So again, it's not mandatory that these get taken out to get a reversal. The further that you get away from them, the less magnetic force that they have. So we're actually back above this one, which is interesting. And the Qs, I wish I had something new for the Qs to say, but sometimes it's just how it is. Yes, a hammer bar looks like for the Qs, but not back above the 5-period moving average. And we're basically, right in line with back to those August lows. Are we going to get rejected here, right, and start to head back down, or is this the beginning of a turn? I don't know yet, and it's too inconclusive, right? And that's fun. What do you do with something that you're not getting a signal for, or it's not conclusive? You sit on your hands and you wait. And I think that's what we have right now with the Qs, because there is that VPOC that I was hoping that this actually got taken out today, because I thought that could be a nice level to get taken out and a possible reversal. But nope, that's 349.88 and still sitting there. And of course, we are below value for the week. So again, every time that we seem to be coming up to trying to turn this week, sellers kind of reassert themselves. This I thought was kind of interesting too. If you're doing some day trading or scalping, the Qs on the 5-minute, pretty good, right? We stalled out, right around the top of value. This was a little bit difficult because we pushed a little bit higher and then got rejected. But, at the end of the day, notice what happened. Price held that bottom of value and came in and retested and held the bottom of value and basically finished where we started the day, which is in this situation, for what we've been experiencing September, that's not bad. So anyway, I'll move on. Other themes for the day. What a move in crude, and in energy stocks. I mean, this is where I've been spending a lot of time, kind of waiting for that next leg higher in crude. You got it today, up 3.7%. That takes out those highs. So this looks like a bit of a pennant formation. You could maybe draw a couple of these things. And now you got to move higher here. Weekly chart, we're still moving through the value area. 80% rule is active. Now that since we entered the value area. So, what did really well today? Energy stocks really move nicely, right? And, again, I see so many people stressing about, this growth name or that growth name. Let them do what they're doing for now, right? There's more downside momentum in those names. Let them kind of get stable. Again, I don't look to play the turns. I'm looking to play trends, right? And a name or an area, a group that comes into support in an uptrend, that gets me excited. So this did not get through those highs, but if you look at the two top holdings in this ETF, Chevron, which I played, this is something I covered earlier in the week, and it looked like it was going to happen the other day. This was on Monday, and of course, you have to be patient. Sometimes you get a nice green candle like that, and you just had an inside day yesterday. So the move in crude, definitely helping here. But ultimately, I think that this gets to this VPOC in here, 173 is just my short-term target. I was going to show the 1 hour chart that lines up very closely, and then there's 176 could be the last or final target. But again, this really thin value area got me interested in Chevron this week. Really thin, tight value area usually means a big move is coming, right? So I did take the target in that one. Exxon also looks pretty good, and Exxon makes it out to all-time new highs. And then if you go up and down, outside of like the main energy companies, the coal names have just been absolutely on fire. AMR, again, and like if some people they don't like to look at the energy names because they think that they're slow and they're not exciting and so forth. So some of these names are up 5-6% today. AMR was up 5%. It's not like they don't move; they're moving. You again, just like we talked about 2 days ago, Arch out to new highs. This name's up 4%. BTU Not my favorite in the group, but still up 5% for the day. I mean, again, these are not small moves that are going on. ARLP is another name. Right. This is a little bit of a lower price stock, also moving up. And then CEIX also touched new highs. I guess it closed at new highs. Again, up 3.5%. Going back to some of the oil names. This is not a name I've talked about in a while, but this OVV looks interesting. Broke the range today. Still has to carry through. PBF, which is more of a refining type name, I would watch to see if this name can break through its value area for the week. So it's not there yet. The refiners have not been showing momentum this week, but that's okay. Keep an eye on them, and this one in particular at 54.73. All right, I could go through a few more energy names, but I might be boring people. I'm going to talk a little bit about name that I mentioned yesterday, SMCI. Again, you're just not getting like a lot of clean candles where you got one in here, right, where price finished on the highs of this, but you could see like the next one follows up and it has a long wick on it. So some of these names are they're not quite ready yet. NVDA trying to get through this week's highs still is sticky, right? We talked about this one the other day, how it's getting held up right around this like 424 to 427 level. Notice again, it tried, similar to the other attempts this week. It tried here, couldn't do it. Tried here, couldn't do it. Right. And this made a little bit more progress because it's above the range that it's been fighting with, because every time it comes up here this week, it's gone back below 423. In this sense, we're above there. You just have to see if it can continue to go higher. So no major move yet in this stock. Tomorrow I would watch the 425 level. You could see what the value area for tomorrow, and see if it can get above 425, because the 1 hour chart price is inside value for the week. And the 80% rule could still be played out yet for this stock, which would be a healthy move up to 442. All right, that's a couple names just to go through. Also, I thought, Celsius, which, so again, you could look at, as I'm going through a couple of these growth names. Oh, let's see. I wonder if there was any news here. Let's names. I did get back involved in this thing today. Let me see if I can find some news. Yeah, I didn't see any news on it, so I don't know. Could be a bad print up there too. But regardless, if it is, I put on a trade and my stop price is right around the bottom of value for the week. So if it can hold in here, I'll sit long and maybe we'll look for a move and try to take some targets up to 192 for the week. But we'll see how it progresses. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Have a great night. And I would say, we still have 2 more days left of the month of September. I was joking around earlier because I'm like, oh, tomorrow should be an easy day. And of course I'm joking because, you've got quarter end flows and you don't know what you're going to get with some of these institutions who really do a lot of positioning around quarter end. And that mostly will happen on Friday, but still, I still think institutions are moving around some of their portfolios, maybe window dressing if that still exists. And then of course you're going to have headlines more about this government shutdown and whether or not they get that done. So it's going to be filled with a little bit of distractions and some whippy price action. And then we're in October, right? And then we're into a better seasonal month. So I hope that adds a little bit of perspective for you. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.